What would you do if a stranger demanded money to live in your own home? Daniel Thompson had dreamed of this house for years. After a decade of saving, he and his wife, Emily, finally moved into a charming two-story home on the edge of a quiet suburban neighborhood. The backyard sloped gently into a row of tall trees, the kind of space where their kids, Chloe and Ethan, could run without worrying about traffic or city noise. For the first week, everything was perfect, until a sharp knock rattled their front door one sunny afternoon. When Daniel opened it, he found a woman standing tall, holding a clipboard against her chest like a weapon. She wore oversized sunglasses, a stiff blazer despite the heat, and a smile so forced it looked painted on. "Good afternoon. I'm Karen, HOA President," she announced proudly, as if that title made her royalty. "I'll need to collect your membership application and the first month's dues." Daniel blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, we're not part of an HOA. Our property deed makes that pretty clear." Karen's smile faltered. "Everyone here joins. It keeps the neighborhood orderly. You don't want to start off on the wrong foot, do you?" Emily appeared behind Daniel, holding Ethan's hand. The tension in Karen's voice made her uneasy. Daniel kept his tone calm but firm. "We'll be fine without it. Thank you." Karen's expression hardened. Her sunglasses slid down just enough for Daniel to see the icy glare behind them. "One way or another," she muttered, turning sharply on her heel. Daniel closed the door, unsettled. He didn't realize it yet, but that knock was just the beginning of a storm that would shake their entire neighborhood. At first it was just letters, then it became something more sinister. The next morning, Daniel found an envelope taped to their mailbox. It bore the HOA's seal and demanded $250 in dues. The letter warned of penalties if they failed to comply. Emily read it with trembling hands. "She can't be serious. We're not even in her HOA." "Relax," Daniel reassured her. "It's harassment, but it won't stick. We'll ignore it." But ignoring Karen proved impossible. Every few days, new letters appeared. On their porch, stuffed under their doormat, even slipped into their car windshield. Each one grew more threatening. "Non-compliance will result in legal action. Failure to pay will not be tolerated." Neighbors began whispering. Some sympathized, quietly warning Daniel that Karen had a history of bullying anyone who didn't bow to her rules. Others avoided the family entirely, afraid of being associated with them. Chloe, their teenage daughter, noticed Karen's SUV driving slowly past their house at night. "She just sits there," Chloe whispered one evening, peeking through the blinds, "like she's waiting for us to mess up." Emily felt a pit in her stomach. Their peaceful dream home was starting to feel like a cage, with Karen rattling the bars whenever she pleased. The day Karen brought the police to their door, Daniel realized this wasn't just neighborhood drama anymore. On a crisp Saturday morning, Daniel was in the garage tightening bolts on a new shelf when two uniformed police officers walked up the driveway. Behind them, Karen stood tall with her clipboard, smirking. "Sir," one officer began, "we've received a complaint that you're trespassing on HOA property." Daniel wiped his hands on a rag, stunned. "Trespassing? This is my property. Look." He pulled out the deed he kept in a folder by the garage door, anticipating exactly this kind of nonsense. The officers skimmed it, exchanged glances, then sighed. "Looks like everything's in order here." Karen's face flushed. "You can't just take his word for it. He hasn't paid a single dime. He's lowering property values." "Ma'am," the officer said firmly, "this home isn't part of your HOA. There's nothing we can do." Daniel locked eyes with Karen. "You need to stop harassing my family." Karen's lips curled into a bitter smile. "You'll regret this," she hissed, before storming off. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made her jump. She had the sinking feeling Karen wasn't finished, and she was right. When the neighborhood splits in half, the truth begins to surface. The following weeks were tense. Half the neighbors avoided Daniel's family, afraid of angering Karen. The other half quietly admitted they admired Daniel's stand, but feared to speak up themselves. Daniel started keeping a journal. He documented every letter, every knock, every drive-by. His entries grew thicker by the day. Then one evening, while mowing the lawn, a neighbor named George approached cautiously. He glanced over his shoulder before speaking. "You're not the first, you know," George muttered. "Karen's been running this HOA like her personal bank account. Inflated dues, fake fines. She threatened me when I asked for receipts." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying she's stealing money?" George nodded. "Wouldn't surprise me. But no one wants to go up against her." That night, Daniel shared the conversation with Emily. Her face went pale. If she's really stealing from the HOA, this isn't just harassment, it's a crime. Daniel's protective instincts kicked in. Then it's time someone exposed her. The night the threats became real, Daniel knew Karen was hiding something far darker. 2 days later, Daniel came home from work to find their fence spray-painted in bright red letters, "Join or pay." Emily's hands shook as she pointed to it. "Daniel, this has gone too far. What if she comes after the kids next?" Daniel clenched his jaw. Enough was enough. That evening, he called an old college friend, Mark Reynolds, now working as a federal investigator. Daniel explained the harassment, the threats, and the rumors of fraud. Mark listened quietly, then said, "You might be onto something bigger. We've had tips about HOAs being used for embezzlement and money laundering. If you can get me documentation, it could help." Daniel shared his meticulous notes, the letters, even photos of the vandalism. For the first time, he felt like someone was truly listening. But Karen wasn't slowing down. She doubled her patrols, circling the block, glaring at Daniel's home, like a hawk watching prey. Emily insisted they install security cameras. Chloe refused to walk to school alone. The neighborhood felt suffocating, but Daniel was determined. "If she's breaking the law," he told Emily, "she won't get away with it much longer." Karen thought she could control the neighborhood. She never expected federal agents on her doorstep. It happened on a gray Wednesday morning. Daniel was sipping coffee when he heard engines rumbling outside. Unmarked black SUVs rolled into the neighborhood. Men and women in FBI jackets stepped out, surrounding Karen's pristine 2-story home. Neighbors peeked through curtains as agents carried out boxes of files, computers, and even cash. Karen stood on her porch, shrieking at the top of her lungs. "This is harassment! I'm the president! You can't do this to me!" But the agents ignored her protests, reading her rights as she was handcuffed and placed into the back of a vehicle. Daniel watched from his yard, stunned. George walked over, shaking his head. "Guess the queen just lost her crown." News spread quickly. Karen had been embezzling HOA funds, creating fake fines, and funneling money into hidden accounts. The FBI had been watching her for months, but Daniel's meticulous records were the final push they needed. For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt the weight lift from his shoulders. The day after the raid, Daniel's family finally felt peace, but the lesson would stay with them forever. The next morning, the neighborhood felt different, lighter. Neighbors who once avoided Daniel now stopped by with apologies and gratitude. Emily smiled for the first time in weeks as she watched Chloe and Ethan play in the yard without fear. "It feels normal again," she whispered. Daniel nodded, though his mind replayed every moment, the letters, the threats, the flashing lights of the raid. He realized bullies didn't always look like thugs. Sometimes they wore blazers and carried clipboards. That night, he tucked his children into bed and stepped out onto the porch. The air was calm, the street quiet. For the first time since moving in, he felt at home. Karen's reign was over, but the lesson remained. Standing up to intimidation wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And sometimes, the fight for peace revealed truths darker than anyone could imagine.